Through deep exploration and understanding, we unlock the profound mysteries of the mind and its limitless potential. Let us embark on this journey together, awakening to the boundless possibilities within ourselves and the universe. Dr. Tony Nader. Welcome everyone to our 5th session of the Special Assembly. Tonight, we will take you on a fascinating journey to projects around the world, and especially projects in India and Nepal on changing the world through consciousness. We will begin our journey in India discovering the roots of the Vedic tradition of Veda and Vedic literature that UNESCO called an intangible heritage of humanity. Afterwards, we'll continue our journey discovering how Maharishi used groups to create peace many times throughout the decades around the world. And then we'll close with some exciting latest projects on creating permanent large groups of Vedic experts to create peace not only for the individual, but the world as a whole. I will introduce several speakers to you during our session, and we'll begin with Dr. Harris Kaplan. Dr. Harris Kaplan did his undergraduate studies at McGill University in Montreal, Canada, where he also had a graduate fellowship in philosophy. He has been a teacher of transcendental meditation since 1973. He was for many years a senior manager of a major New York Stock Exchange energy company, and then began and ran a successful investment fund for many years. Since 2000, Dr. Kaplan has devoted his time to support programs of the transcendental meditation organizations around the world. Since 2006, he has been the chief administrator for transcendental meditation organization projects in India, including the training and support of thousands of Maharishi Vedic Pandits, also Vedic experts. He has been the CEO of the Brahmananda Saraswati Foundation, the foundation that was established to support the Maharishi Vedic expert, known as Maharishi Vedic Pandit, since its inception, and also serves on its investment committee, helping to oversee the Pandit endowment. So without further ado, I'm very happy and thrilled to introduce you to Dr. Harris Kaplan. Over to you.
As you can probably imagine, it's such a great delight to be part of this wonderful assembly, and in particular to be able to discuss a project that's so very dear to all of us. In the very first session, at the end of it, Dr. Tony Nader said that there won't be time to spend a lot of time on many of the programs with which we're familiar already, because all these new fantastic initiatives needed attention. But the one program that we are going to talk about is one with which many people are familiar, and that's the program to create peace, affluence, harmony in the world through creating large groups. So if video could please show the first slide. And then the second slide, please. I think when we talk about a world in which it's actually possible to create a world of peace and harmony, naturally, I think all of us feel the greatest appreciation for this and its source, the Vedic tradition, which is the source of all this knowledge of individual and collective peace, affluence, fulfillment. It's the source of the knowledge and experience of consciousness, of pure consciousness and its expressions, to enliven every aspect of our lives. And in that, of course, we feel particularly grateful for the enormous, inestimable contribution of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who managed to revive in this time, all these consciousness-based modalities in their purity and completeness. And next slide. And I feel our great, great appreciation for Dr. Tony Nader, who has been taking this incredible gift from Maharshi and so profoundly, so graciously leading everyone on this proven path for peace in our time. This ability to have large groups is quite unfathomably fortunate, but it's also been clearly, demonstrably, repeatedly, scientifically demonstrated that it is possible that the square root of 1% of any nation or any group or of the whole world, if they come together and practice the Vedic technologies of yoga and yajna, that we can create this influence in the world. It's almost like we want to say to the world, come on, we've shown it so long, come on, listen. Listen to what Dr. Nader is saying. Listen to what this possibility is. It's practical. And we've been finding the ways to institute the program in ways which are practical. So how would you get together a group, say 1% of the world's population, say around 10,000? The logical place to have that is, first of all, schools, because there are all these boys and girls together in one place. And there they're able to practice the technology of yoga. And I think everybody knows what we mean by yoga. Yoga is, as this is a quote from Arshi, union. The union of the individual awareness with the unified field of all the laws of nature in the state of transcendental consciousness. So students around the world in large groups meditating is a key to our program. And then, of course, also the Maharshi Vedic Pandits, our dear Maharshi Vedic Pandits, who do yoga and yajna together, and I'll define yajna now. These yajnas have their power because these yajnas, these Vedic recitations, these sounds, are the words of the transcendental field, the field of consciousness. They're not limited to space or time, and it's a great miracle of the authority that has alliance with the constitution of the universe, in which all past and present and future is present at any one point. These Vedic performances, these yajnas, have that natural ability to produce any effect from any distance. These Vedic recitations are the eternal sounds of the unified field of all the laws of nature, that field of consciousness. And whenever Vedic yajnas are performed properly, by properly trained Maharshi Vedic Pandits, doing yajna but also established in their own consciousness through their own deep meditation, then what happens? The fundamental laws of nature begin to pulsate, begin to vibrate in nature and in our bodies, enlivening all its various parts, aligning the individual mind, the individual physiology, for example, in the case of personal yajnas, and aligning collective consciousness, in the case of large national or global yajnas, with that huge evolutionary force of total natural law. It's interesting how Maharshi, discussing this power of nature, thought of this in terms of how the trends of time can change. Discussing this in late October of 2007, reflecting on this technology, this Vedic technology of peace, he first quoted this verse from the Gita. This is from Gita 2:40. In this yoga, means in this alignment of unity, unity with consciousness, pure consciousness, no effort is lost, no obstacle exists. Even a little of this dharma, and dharma meaning that alignment with total natural law, delivers of huge fear, of great fear. And Maharishi, going on to talk about this verse, said, "It's a wonderful teaching in this verse, and it brings great hope to mankind. This is that one thing, groups, with which we are going to create invincibility." And he paused and he said, it's a very, very measured step that we're taking. It's not happening at random. Everything, he said, I've been doing is purposeful. And whenever in the long history of the world and cosmos, whenever Kali Yuga, times of suffering and strain, ends, and Sat Yuga begins, peace and harmony, affluence, this is the program, this is the procedure. It's a measured step. It's not the story of shaking a mango tree and hoping a mango will fall. No. We carefully point and we hit that mango with our stick, and then the mango falls. It's such a delightful thing. This is why Maharishi wanted to have these yoga and yajna performed daily by large groups of pundits and create that influence of peace for the world. Now, it's said that in traditional times it was the responsibility of the rulers to maintain these large groups. And so here you see that it's said that in the Mahabharata, that formerly 8,000 Vedic pundits and 10,000 people practicing group experience of consciousness, of transcending, were maintained in the palace of Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira, I think as many people know, is used as the example of Dharma incarnate, of the responsibility of a ruler to take care of everybody. In our time, in the rulership that there exists in the world in traditional countries, that sense of knowledge or that sense of responsibility isn't there. So Maharishi took on himself to say, first to explain, for example, to the government of India that this was available. And when they said, wonderful, go ahead and do it yourself, then Maharishi went ahead and did it himself. And this is that program that Dr. Nader is leading. This is real rulership of a real global country, of a real global vision. A little later this evening, Dr. Patterson and I hope Dr. Jose Luis will talk about some of the large programs that are going on everywhere along these lines. So what was Maharishi's plan for his pundits? First, that they should be permanent. We should have permanent groups of pundits. And in these large groups, we want to create these groups of 10,000 pundits. And that they were to do yoga, that it's not that they just do recitation, they have to be established in that own self-referral, silent, sweet, unbounded experience. And then very specific yajnas, which he detailed again, even in his last days, write down these are the yajnas that we have to do. And he wanted the Vedic pundits to be living and meditating in Vastu, so that that alignment with natural law would have that support. And finally, and very important, the training of young pundits to preserve the tradition. And for this, I think later on tonight, we're going to hear from Deepak Baskoda, who's done such an amazing job in Nepal of working with these hundreds of gurukuls, with these young boys, and making sure this next generation is really learning how to do yajna properly and from the basis of their own silent inner consciousness. So when we talk about the program that we have now, talking about the Brahmananda Saraswati Foundation, there's about 4,500 now pundits in India in 25 different locations. As of today, there were 1,672 pundits at the Brahmastan. And every single day, day after day after day, these pundits are doing these yajnas per this plan, this Ati Rujabhishek Mahayagya. And each one of these yajnas has some different flag of nature, some different request or demand or hope of natural law. So Ati Rujabhishek for that value of peace and silence, Lakshchandi Mahayagya, which is done every day for that value of nourishing wealth of every kind for the world. There's Adbhushanti Yagyas, 5 of them we do every single day. And those yagyas have the value of aligning with certain administration aspects of total natural law. And like that, we do these large national yagyas and special yagyas every day for Devatas, or Day of the Week, and Graha Shanti. I think everyone understands that if we want to have these peacekeepers, it's so important to take care of them properly. And so, in what's actually quite a difficult environment to maintain properly, India has its own challenges, monsoon season and the heat and so on. So there's a constant effort to make sure that the pundits are taken care of. Right now we're going through a big process at the Brahmastan of upgrading pretty much all the sub-campuses. There are 6 sub-campuses in that overall area of the Brahmastan, and continue to make special mandaps that are most conducive, especially for Havan Yagyas, and beautiful gardens, and also in these past 2 years to produce organic food for the pundits so they eat properly. Because in the area of the Brahmastan, there's not such thing as organic food within 300 or 400 kilometers. So you get a sense here of some of the beautiful gardens that have been created. And this is the wheat harvest from earlier. And this building is going on as well in the other ashrams. These are just some pictures of Prayagraj, it's Allahabad, with these 4 new buildings. So this is one leg of this stool. And the other one that's very important is the Maharshi school system, the Maharshi Vidyamandirs and the Maharshi universities, which both support this overall Pandit program, and in itself is a great blessing for the world. This is the current status of the Maharshi Vidyamandirs in India. 154 schools, 96,000 students, 45,000 siddhas, which 42,000 siddhas are the students and the rest are some of the faculty. And that group should be up to around 50,000 in the next several weeks. And that includes the teachers and the staff. This is one of the 2 divisions we have for school systems in India. And the other one is the Southern India school system, which is also expanding. 31 different schools. They're quite large, many of these, 22,000 plus students. I didn't have the current count on the siddhas, but it's a large number of siddhas, of course. I wanted to mention this about the schools today because I was chuckling a few days ago because one of the great leaders of consciousness-based education, I hope she won't mind me saying this, Dr. Susie Dilbeck said to me, "How are the schools doing in India? Are they still there?" And I thought, oh my gosh, I must be doing really a lousy job of communicating what's going on. Because these are really, they're sources of sattva for India and the world. And now it's amazing, these graduates are coming back and you see them all in society leading people. It's just a fantastic accomplishment. And many of the schools are in very rural areas. And yet despite that, the quality of the education that's given, both of course the inner experience of consciousness, but also then that expression, their success in the world is quite fantastic. So when you look at all the awards and so on that the school gives, I'll have to make sure that I do a better job in future celebrations of talking about the schools. So I thought you might like to see pictures because Neil was saying to me beforehand, don't you dare give a presentation without lots of pictures. So yes, we really have students. This is what they look like in different places. You can just go through and scan through to the end. And one of the ideas that we've had is, how do we create a ring of sattva around the Brahmastan to make sure that the coherence is maximized? And so what we've been doing is we've been adding new schools just in the radius of the Brahmastan. And last year we've added 2,500 new siddhas, student siddhas, to try and increase that coherence and bring more support for creating these large groups. In addition to that, we've been teaching the people in the local area. So you see some of the older people, younger than me, but older people, who have just learned to meditate. So we have this incredible gift from the Vedic tradition. It's a cornerstone of creating a world of peace, harmony, and affluence. And it's such an honor for us all to work alongside our dear Dr. Tony Nader, utilizing this consciousness-based education and blessing the world with peace. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaplan, for this beautiful and profound journey, taking us right back to the roots of the Vedic tradition and knowledge, and these beautiful pictures and inspiring numbers of students and siddhas and teachers that are all really spreading and expanding and maintaining the knowledge of the Vedic tradition. So thank you so much. Now we'll continue our journey discovering how Maharishi used large groups to create peace in various parts of the world many times over the decades. And it's a real joy to introduce you to a friend really of all in our TM organization, Dr. Neil Patterson. Dr. Neil Patterson studied and worked with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi for more than 30 years. He received his doctoral degree in the Science of Creative Intelligence from Maharishi European Research University and his doctoral degree in Maharishi Vedic Science from Maharishi Vedic University in the Netherlands. And as you remember from our first meeting, Dr. Patterson is currently the Secretary General of the Brahmananda Saraswati Foundation, and that Dr. Kaplan, Harris Kaplan, just introduced us to as well. And besides all that, he is also the Global Minister of Administration for the global country of world peace. And so he really spent pretty much all of his lifetime on Maharishi's side, supporting projects around the world. So we get a real treat following him on the journey back throughout the decades. So over to you, dear Dr. Patterson.
Thank you, Anna Marika, and especially thank you, Dr. Kaplan, for this beautiful review of the role of the Vedic Pundits of India and Nepal in applying Maharishi's Vedic technologies of consciousness to maintain a high level of coherence, positivity, and peace in the collective consciousness of the world, so that at all times the trends in the world are always in the positive and progressive direction. This is the purpose of this profession of the Vedic Pundits in India and Nepal. Now, throughout the 50 years that Maharishi was teaching in the world, there were many breakthroughs in the unfoldment of the knowledge of consciousness. And Maharishi gave a theme to every year that he was teaching in the world that highlights these breakthroughs in consciousness. And I first wanted to draw your attention to a wonderful exhibition that is available online that was inspired by Maharaja for the 10,000 for World Peace Assembly and was created by Dr. Chris Kroll. You can access this website at maharshi.world. Very simple, maharishi.world. And I encourage everyone to visit that site, as it gives you in a very short period of time a complete overview, a very concise way of the whole history of our movement and the unfoldment of the knowledge of consciousness by Maharishi, and which is now continuing under Maharaja's leadership over these past 67 years, from 1957 to 2024. Now, we can't go through the entire exhibition or review all the breakthroughs in consciousness this evening, but we mainly wanted to highlight a few of those breakthroughs. In the talk we heard on Guru Purnima celebration by Maharshi, he mentioned that the first breakthrough was when he started teaching that within everyone there is an unbounded field of consciousness, which is an unlimited reservoir of energy, intelligence, and happiness, and that through the simple, natural practice of transcendental meditation, what Maharshi later called the technology of consciousness, anyone can easily experience this field of consciousness, and it will have enormous benefits in every area of your life. Then Maharshi said, from there, every 2-3 years, there was another breakthrough for higher consciousness. He said, from the experience of transcendental consciousness came the unfoldment of cosmic consciousness, and then refined cosmic consciousness, or God consciousness, and then finally, unity consciousness, which is the pinnacle of human development of consciousness. And then another important breakthrough in consciousness came also at this time. Maharshi brought to light that because consciousness is the most fundamental field underlying everything in creation, that with enough people enlivening this field of consciousness within themselves through the daily practice of transcendental meditation, then an influence of peace, harmony, and unity spreads throughout the whole field of consciousness, affecting everyone in society. And this phenomenon became known as the Maharshi effect, that it was possible for individuals, small number of individuals, to actually change the quality of collective consciousness of the whole society, which would prevent problems and increase positive trends in the society. Now, even as early as 1962, when the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, Maharshi applied this technology of consciousness to influence the collective consciousness in the world at that time, to prevent and reduce crises. And he encouraged the meditators. At that time, of course, there were only hundreds of meditators, there weren't many, but they had gathered on Catalina Island in the United States, and Maharshi had them for the first time doing group meditation to enliven greater peace and harmony in the collective consciousness, with the effect of calming the situation and reducing stress in society. So here we see, if video could show some of the slides I prepared. Yes, here's the slide we see, photo of the Catalina Island group with Maharshi in 1962. So this was really the first time that Maharshi responded to crises in the world by applying these technologies of consciousness for creating greater peace. Now in 1974, when Chairman Mao of China was wanting to spread the theme of violent cultural revolution from China throughout Southeast Asia, this of course created enormous tensions between the two nuclear powers of China and the United States of America. And Maharshi saw the danger of rising stress in world consciousness, and he immediately had dozens of teachers of transcendental meditation go to the neighboring countries around China and teach tens of thousands of people this practice to create a calming, peaceful influence in what Maharshi called the air conditioning of China. And here I want to show this slide, which is a graphic that Maharshi had created, and it depicts this effect of a peaceful, calming, cooling influence coming into China from the meditators in neighboring countries. And it's interesting that Maharshi himself initiated this project in Nepal in 1974 in November, where he went and he personally taught approximately 28,000 people transcendental meditation in 1 week. Here we see in these slides a photo of Maharshi addressing thousands of Nepalis gathered in Ratna Park in the center of Kathmandu. I think there's another slide, yes. So Maharshi speaking to everyone. There, day and night, he instructed 28,000 people himself in transcendental meditation. So it shows the urgency that Maharshi felt in producing this effect, a calming influence from all the neighboring countries at that time to reduce the tensions in the world. Now, in 1978, after Maharshi started teaching the powerful TM Siddhi practice of yogic flying, which was an addition to this technology of consciousness, he had groups of yogic flyers go to the 5 most troubled spots of the world at that time, where conflicts were happening. And this was to calm the violence in those regions of the world through the daily group practice of these technologies of consciousness. And here we see in this slide the yogic flyers hopping and demonstrating the power of consciousness. And the next slide declares that world peace was achieved. For this short period of time that the yogic flyers were in these parts of the world, and this was verified by the reports of the ending of conflicts in these regions when the groups of yogic flyers were in these areas. Now, after this demonstration, Maharshi felt that we had the formula to bring peace to the world, that we could create with these groups powerful influence of peace which would ensure always that the trends in the world were harmonious and peaceful and progressive. And he wanted to demonstrate this on a global level, and so he held the first experiment to create an upsurge of coherence and positivity in world consciousness with the Taste of Utopia Assembly. And research conducted at that time verified that it brought about a great improvement in the relations between the United States and the Soviet Union, among many other positive trends in the world at that time. This assembly was just for a few weeks, but it verified that this formula of having more than the square root of 1% of the world population, this is the group we see here, it was over, I think, 8,000 participants at Maharshi International University in 1983 and 1984. So this was a great eureka, Maharshi said, for the world, that now we had a formula to really transform the trends of life in the world. So Maharshi started working to assemble, in between 1987 and 1990, he assembled and trained 7,000 Vedic Pandits in India. Here just before that, you saw the yogic flyers in the golden domes of MIU during this period. Yes, so then Maharshi assembled and he trained 7,000 Vedic Pandits in India, and he trained them to practice the technologies of consciousness in yoga and yajnas. We heard from Dr. Kaplan this evening. It's these 2 powerful technologies of consciousness, yoga and yajna, that produce a global influence of peace. And during these years, from 1987 to 1990, the world witnessed one of the most dramatic outbreaks of peace that humanity had ever seen. Brought an end to the Cold War, and with that, the cessation of numerous conflicts in the world, all over the world. There was the fall of the Berlin Wall, we can show the next slide, and freedom for tens of millions of people around the world. It was unbelievably dramatic that even most pundits, other pundits, not Vedic pundits, but pundits of trends in the world, and journalists, commentators, politicians, they couldn't believe that this was happening. Now, unfortunately, that group couldn't be maintained, so that influence was not maintained at that time. But after this assembly, then Maharshi continued to inspire his leaders all over the world to continue holding world peace assemblies to further demonstrate this phenomenon of transforming collective consciousness and improving trends in the world. And most recently, just in January of this year, our Dr. Tony Nader, Maharaja, inspired and organized for 11,000 experts in the technologies of consciousness from 139 countries to come together in India to demonstrate the group dynamics of consciousness with the main purpose to inspire leaders in India and all parts of the world to now establish permanent groups practicing the Maharshi technologies of consciousness. And it was Maharshi's main focus in later years, throughout the 1990s and 2000s. He focused on creating permanent groups, but particularly of Vedic pundits in India. During the 10,000, 11,000 who were there, 1,000 of them were Maharshi Vedic pundits. And every day, in addition to practicing with everyone in the group, Transcendental Meditation and the TM City program, they also performed the Vedic recitation of Rudrabhishek, which is the yajna for world peace, in that atmosphere. So it's, as you see, it's the combination of these two values of Vedic knowledge, of Vedic science, of consciousness, yoga, transcendental meditation and yogic flying, and yajna, the recitation of the mantras of the Veda, which we're going to be hearing in a few minutes, and have Maharaja comment about the significance of this performance in the field of consciousness. But Maharshi also emphasized that in every country of the world, we should create large groups, permanently established to produce the Maharshi effect, to produce this effect. And as we heard this evening from Dr. Kaplan, Maharshi started to have campuses constructed according to the Vedic architecture for such groups in different parts of India, so that the influence of coherence and peace that they are creating from their daily performance of the Vedic technologies of consciousness is even more powerful. This is the effect of buildings constructed according to Vedic architecture, that they amplify this influence of peace and harmony generated by the group practice of the technologies of consciousness. And just like in the next slide, we see a few of the campuses. Oh, this is not that, but maybe it's at the end. Yeah, we just go back for a minute, and we'll show the campuses in a minute. I just wanted to mention that the other initiative that has been so inspiring and so important, and this was an initiative of Dr. Nader, that we should offer to all the traditional schools of pundits throughout India and Nepal Maharshi's technologies of consciousness, Maharshi's program for training the Vedic pundits to be proficient in these performances. And we now have over 7,000 students in 200 schools taking part in this training. And this is very important because we want to ensure that these professional peace creators in the Vedic pundits are there in the next generations to come, that they will continue these daily performances. So Dr. Nader launched this beautiful program to implement Maharshi's training program of consciousness in hundreds of traditional Pandit training schools in India and Nepal. Now, I just wanted to make a few concluding remarks. That, I don't know if we have the campuses. Also, under Dr. Nader's inspiration. Oh, here, yeah, so it just, if you can go back to the students, just shows you some of these students from different schools throughout India came together for a big assembly and to meditate together and to do Vedic recitation together. So you can see they're learning, they're still in the learning stages of these performances. Yes, and also here we see what I wanted to mention, that also under Dr. Nader's inspiration, these facilities are being constructed all over India and Nepal for these students to live and practice daily the Vedic technologies of consciousness. On the left, this is the main facility in India in the Brahmastan that Maharshi undertook to have constructed. And in the middle, we see a new facility in the Brahmastan of Assam, in the northeast of India. And on the right side is the campus of the Maharshi Vedic Pandits in Kathmandu in Nepal. So I wanted to just end by playing two short videos. And first, the first one is of a school in Rishikesh, just on the banks of the Ganges, where Maharshi's program of training of the Vedic Pandits was implemented, and they are starting to learn this recitation of the Yajna for world peace. And so I think you have it, hopefully you have it. Yes. So these are students, and there are hundreds of these schools all over India and Nepal, where they're all learning these technologies of consciousness that Maharshi gave, and they have a whole curriculum, and they learn transcendental meditation and the siddhis and yogic flying, and then these Vedic recitations for enlivening the total potential of natural law in the atmosphere, in the whole collective consciousness of the world. And perhaps a little later, Maharaja Dr. Nader would like to comment about the significance of these Vedic sounds and what they mean and what their purpose is for influencing the destiny of mankind. And now finally, I'd just also like to introduce Dr. Kingsley Brooks and Dr. Deepak Baskota from Nepal, who have been responsible also for implementing these programs and of training the Vedic Pandits of Nepal to create greater influence of peace in the world from their daily performance of yoga and yajna. And we'll begin, I think, Raja Kingsley, by showing a short video of the new campus in the Brahmananda Saraswati Nagar just outside of Kathmandu, Nepal, that was constructed under Dr. Nader's inspiration and by Dr. Brooks and Dr. Deepak Baskota. So why don't we see that, and then you can make some remarks. Okay, so video, if you could play that tape from, yes. When Maharshi said in 2008 that his work was done and that the future of the world was bright and that is his delight, then he emphasized that it is through maintaining, preserving this tradition of the Vedic Pandits, of them being properly trained in the Vedic technologies of consciousness and them being able to continue to perform them uninterrupted every day in such beautiful facilities in India and Nepal, that this would ensure the bright future of the whole mankind. So it's our joy to present this to all of you, and also our great joy to be able to spend our time helping to organize, to create these facilities, to raise the funds to support the Vedic Pandits of India and Nepal.
Jai Gurdev. Thank you, Neil. It's really been just such a blessing that Maharaja has really refocused our whole movement to supporting the Vedic Pandits of Nepal and India. And this campus that you just saw, the Brahmananda Saraswati Nagar campus, is really a result of this refocusing by Maharaja onto this, to developing these kind of Vastu facilities that really create such bliss in the Pandits. When I met with the senior Pandits, when they first arrived onto the campus when it was being completed, there was many of the Pandits that were there were from being with Maharshi a long time ago in Noida, where Maharshi started the Pundit program. And there literally were tears coming to their eyes when I was meeting with them, and they were saying, this is what Maharshi always promised for us. And they felt that it had finally happened. This Brahmananda Saraswati Nagar campus in Nepal, when we were completing it, we had a temple that we wanted to have on the campus, and Maharshi wanted to have the temple on the Brahmananda Saraswati Nagar campus be a temple to the holy tradition and to Gurudev. And I just would like video to show just a short video clip of this temple and the statue of Gurudev that's been created there for this. This was carefully monitored and supervised. It was done by one of the top families in India, in Rajasthan, that they were traditional carvers that go back generation after generation. This was one of the top two families in in India that do these carvings. And it was supervised by Francis Knight, who is the artist for the Holy Tradition, Dale Devoki, who did one of the sculptures of Gurudev, and Dr. Ike Hartman, who really knew all of the sort of prescriptions that Maharshi had for laying out this. So we feel very wonderful. This is the first statue of Gurudev so far, and we hope it, as Dr. Neil has said, that this will be a model for all the Brahmananda Saraswati Nagars. So I think, if there's anything I have a couple of other just quick, you could, if Kushal, if a video could just show a couple of the other the slides from Nepal. There's a slide of in front of the Gurudev temple, there's a beautiful fountain. There's a short video of that. Right here, yes. Good. I think I'll leave it at that. There had some other some other photos, but I think time is getting a little short, so we'll close. Thank you, everyone. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you so much, Dr. Neil Patterson, for this beautiful journey through the history of the TM movement, and Dr. Kingsley Brooks for these latest beautiful developments in Nepal. It's really inspiring, and I think actually for those who are hearing about these projects for the first time, there is actually a wonderful retreat facility at the center point of India, where you can see some of these projects live in a TM retreat setting, which is a beautiful and very transformative experience. And we can, I'm sure, share the website to Maharshi India courses as well. Now, we will continue our journey to really these current times and look at what groups are actually being created right now around the world to create peace and coherence in society, really not only for certain countries, but the whole world. So with that, I am thrilled to introduce you to our dear Dr. Jose Luis Alvarez, who will speak about the groups coming together now pretty much as we speak. So Dr. Jose Luis Alvarez studied and worked with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi for more than 30 years. He received his doctoral degree in the science of creative intelligence from Maharishi European Research University in Switzerland and a doctorate degree in Maharishi Vedic Science from Maharishi Vedic University, the Netherlands, in 1993. Dr. Alvarez is the Vice Chancellor of Maharishi University of Latin America and the Caribbean, and he's also the Global Minister of Law and Order for the global country of world peace. Besides all that, Dr. Alvarez is the Chief Administrator for Latin America, responsible for implementing the various programs of the Maharishi Vedic technologies of consciousness in Asia, Africa, and Latin America for the direct benefit of about 1.4 million people to learn transcendental meditation in more than 1,270 institutions. The results of these programs have been so positive that it has motivated governments and educational leaders in Brazil, Mexico, and Ecuador, along with other countries, to offer these programs to millions of children throughout Latin America, Asia, and Africa. Besides that, Dr. Alvarez is also the president of Maharishi Foundation of Latin America, the David Lynch Foundation of Latin America, the Maharishi Institute of Sthapatya Ved, and the Maharishi Corporation for Latin America. And coming back to India and some of the current project, Dr. Alvarez is also the patron and director of the Maharishi International Vedic University, approved by the government of Maharashtra, and the director of Ved Bhumi, the Ved Bhumi project in Pune that he'll likely share more with us about. So without further ado, welcome Dr. Alvarez, and thank you so much for being with us online tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes.
Voice is clear. I'll try to make a summary and connect a little bit with what Dr. Patterson and Dr. Kaplan had so beautifully explained to us by running a few slides and commentary. I don't know if you can see it well. Let's see. Can you see it, or you don't see it well?
We see.
Yeah, you see it?
Can we switch to presentation mode?
Yeah, I can do presentation mode, yeah. Can you see now?
Yes, but I think maybe we can just change it to the full view instead of the speaker view. Then our audience can see it even better.
So Rajaji, I can follow you, no problem. You can just go ahead.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, you can do it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what we have been discussing tonight is the Maharishi technologies of consciousness applying to society for permanent peace, well-being, and invincibility. And we have been in this assembly discussing the value of consciousness is all there is from various perspectives and the technologies that derive from it in the offer of Dr. Nether to transform the world through a new approach of consciousness. So in these last 2 days, we had put a lot of emphasis on the individual and its improvement through the various approaches of consciousness advisor program. And now, complementary, there is also an element for society in the consciousness advisors program and in all our holistic approach of consciousness, that is the group dynamic of consciousness, based on a scientific, over the years, proven formula, which we call, as you have heard, the Maharishi effect. Are you able to follow the slides well?
Yes, yes.
All right. So the Maharishi effect, it happens when in a given place, so many people gathers together and meditates together in a space and time, where creates an effect of coherence. That is the social and the outreach of consciousness to the society. And here is a chart of where we have done groups of siddhas, that means advanced practitioners of transcendental meditation in consciousness in social programs. We have been doing in the field of education, as we are seeing. Dr. Kaplan told us a lot what has been done in India, agriculture with the farmers, with the army and police in defense. We have been teaching advanced programs in corporations, governments, indigenous populations, Vedic Pandits, as we saw today, environmental groups that they are concerned about climatic change and they want to approach from consciousness, spiritual organizations, refugees, women empowerment organizations, and rehabilitations. So in all those areas, there have been groups, or there are groups being created that they can have an effect on society, of course for themselves, but for society that they have been using, and they are using this technology. So Maharishi effect then could be done for a city, for the nation, and for the world. It's something that we can do in our own city as meditators, or we can gather in our nation, or we can undertake to do it for the world. It's an initiative of consciousness advisors that everyone can do. And it's an important complement to all the other technologies, because it creates the basis for more well-being, and every technology works better based on this coherence. Now, for the world, as we have heard from Dr. Patterson and from Dr. Kaplan, the formula requires 10,000 practitioners of the advanced program, the TMCD program, flying in one place. This is, flying means doing yogic flying, this advanced procedure of transcendental meditation that we learn after a few months of learning the basic technique. Now, it's very important to say that this is a complement. We were speaking of yoga and yagya. The basic program where the most the research is there is based on consciousness of the people practicing transcendental meditation advanced programs, and then is complemented by the engineering of Vedic frequencies. We know frequencies, they have an enormous value, and the frequencies, what we have heard as mantras, are Vedic sounds, these frequencies that they are systematically engineered to accomplish a specific purpose. So it's not a religious approach. It's a very scientific technology of using sound to produce an effect. Now, there are two basic formulas for Maharishi effect. The basic one is done in one place. So that means everyone, like we have seen in the pictures that Dr. Patterson showed us, we do the group in one place, and then the effect is measured for the whole nation, for the country. And then there is another formula that was unfolded from one of the studies that we did in Washington with Dr. Hegelin, where you have more than one location, and then the formula requires many more experts, but could also be done calculating the effect for the whole world from various places at the same time. So these are the two ways to utilize the Maharishi effect formula. So now we'll put, until now, we have done groups all over the world in all those areas from Maharaja's inspiration, and we thought that it was very important to have a group of 10,000 experts in one place on a permanent basis, and to have them now when the world situation became a little bit more confused, etc. So our approach has been to support all the existing programs that Dr. Kaplan, Dr. Patterson, and so many others are doing around the world, focusing more in 10,000. We have trained, and we are in the process of training a number of groups, and the assembly that we held in Hyderabad at the beginning of the year propelled this development in the inspiration that Dr. Nether created in a number of leaders and institutions around India, and we have been following up this development to consolidate those groups. So now we have trained for those groups specifically at the moment 120,000 meditators and 60,000 siddhas, but we are still training more because we need to have them in patches of 10,000 in various modalities, and that's what we are doing. And now we will comment to you maybe briefly some of them, what they are happening, just for to give you a taste of those groups, and don't take much of the time because I know we are late to the program. So the first group we have mentioned is what we call Himalaya. It's a program of Himalayan farmer ladies. It's called Himalayan Devis. This program has reached 21,000 ladies, and in the Himalayas, and out of the 21,000, more than 10,000 are already yogic flyers that they are flying and doing large programs together at the same time, and they are being put close together in permanent structures, so they become, by the Maharishi formula, a group of 10,000 flyers for the well. And this has created an enormous inspiration, the dedication of these ladies, and there are many more than that. So it's going to be a great inspiration, a great program happening already while we are speaking. Every day is a joy to talk to them and to see how they are, 8,000, 9,000, what they are doing, what is the difficulties. And for that, I'd like to ask if Dr. Alison Plough can say a word about this program, if you are there, Dr. Plough.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Alvarez. These Himalayan women have shown that the power of the Maharshi effect is scientific, but it is also so simple that it can be applied anywhere. And it's the power of consciousness which creates peace first in the individual, and that spreads, and others feel it, and more gather. And one example we were thinking today of that is that when we first started teaching the TM City program in the Himalayas, there was supposed to be some tents ready, and there was some delays. The tent wasn't there. And the government kept saying, they've been saying it for 2.5 years of this project, they'll never come, they're not interested, we can never get more than 100 of them, for sure they won't come for this. And so even the day before they were supposed to come to learn the yogic flying, the government still was saying, you'll see, they won't come, you have to see that, you know, these people, they have their priorities and this isn't it. And even without the tent, 500 of them, the full number expected, showed up, put their mattresses directly on the grass, and learned. And that is a reminder to all of us that we can start very simply with anything. There's thousands, if not millions, of programs around the world to help those nonprofit organizations to give greater support to those who are in difficult situations. These women come up from a very difficult background, and yet they come with the purity, their simplicity, and when they experience the power of consciousness, it's like huge waves. So as Dr. Alvarez mentioned, we have 21,000 meditators, just over 10,000 siddhas as of a few days ago, but that means around 9,000 are still on the list waiting to learn the TM City program. So we'll consolidate bigger and bigger groups with the flying halls throughout the Himalayas, and that whole region has become, Maharshi and Gurudev started the Transcendental Meditation Organization from the Himalayas, and now it seems to be circling back, and that whole region from the women is becoming, again, a lively field of consciousness where the science of consciousness is lived in all of the villages across the mountains. Thank you, Dr. Alvarez.
Thank you, Dr. Plough. The thing is that what we wanted to show with this is when we go to a consciousness advisor, a person can ask for their health or their diet, like we saw, or their habits, or also for their relations. But someone can also say, I want to create peace in my country. I want to create peace in the world, how I can do it. So there is a program of consciousness for that also. And that's what we are offering and what we are commenting tonight. And so this is one of the programs. This is another program that is happening while we are speaking. And the Sai Baba organization is a prestigious humanitarian organization in India that owns hospitals, schools, and nourishes the breakfast of 10 million children around India and the world every morning. And his leader was given an award by Maharajaji in MIU of World Peace degree, and that on that basis is proceeding to create a permanent group of 15,000 in his place. There are many of them. They are pandits, so they are also students, and we are just working with them to create the Maharishi effect. This is one of their schools with our teachers. The third example, what is happening now is Pankiji Institute in South India, in Gudur, where we have already 6,000 and they are building to 10,000 yogic flyers. And this is we are building this type of halls there at the moment while we are speaking. And we are building 2 flying halls, each one for 5,000. And the families has changed the curriculum of the schools to give rounding time to the students and to have a very long possibility of exposure to transcendental meditation and advanced programs. And this is a reality, and already have obtained from government all the changes of curriculum that allows them that no student can be graduated unless he's a yogic flyer. That means he's an advanced practitioner of transcendental meditation. Another place where a group of 10,000 is built while we are speaking is in Beda Bhumi, in Beda land, in Pune, near Pune, in Maharashtra, where 10,000 are being used between pandits and students and some workers. Aiming, the idea is to have up to 20,000, but at least the patron of the project, Swami Govinda Giri, has promised at least 10,000 pandits, and it will become one of the satellites of our Brahmastan and have these activities dedicated to creation of peace through transcendental meditation and the engineering of Vedic frequencies, Vedic sounds. This is a little bit what he's building now to cover for this activity. Another development, there are many of them, but we don't want to present all of them tonight. We just want to sample a few of them, is Karuna Mayama. She was very highly inspired meeting Maharajaji in Hyderabad. She leads about 25,000 pandits in South India, and they have great respect, and she has informed them that they also have to do transcendental meditation and the TMCD program. And then 2 very big lands has been donated to become also satellites of our Brahmastan in South India, under her leadership, to have this program of 10,000, which she thinks is the most important program to save the Vedic culture and to create peace on our planet. South Indian Pandits. So this is an example of how the Vedic Pandits, as we have said, we have listened by Dr. Kingsley Brooks and Dr. Patterson and Dr. Kaplan, are the core of our program of 10,000 for their ability to combine these 2 technologies together. But at the same time, in every country, we should be able to create coherence and well-being for society. And the Maharishi technologies of consciousness provide that in every place in the world. This is one example of the program that there is in Mexico, in Oaxaca, and this is where the formula is being done as the second type of formula, where you need many more than the number to accomplish the Maharishi effect. And this is in the different places where the allocations, like you see here, they have 8,000 in one place and 2,000, and other numbers in various places practicing. And then when this is formulated, give us 8,400, which is enough. It's not yet 9,000, but it's quite close, and it's enough for the coherence of the whole American continent, North and South and Central America. So this is also happening while we are speaking by the great leadership of leaders of the project there, and that they are making an enormous effort for this to be materialized after 11 years of maintaining the program. And we are also developing 10,000 groups in Africa. And we just we had two very beautiful commitments that we already started to teach. One is in Kenya, in very near Nairobi, with a commitment for 50,000 that we will select the best 10,000 to be yogic flyers, and another that is being done again under President Chissano in Mozambique for about 10,000. So these are some examples, some examples that what they're happening while we are speaking. A number of many others are happening in India, but we didn't want to bring all of them because they are unfolding in various stages, but includes 3 types of projects, whether association with a spiritual organization to the program, whether a businessman like the one that is promoting Veda Bhumi, 2 others that they are doing the same in their own way, that they want to sponsor and fund the whole infrastructure and the whole project and make it permanently. And then the ones with institutions that they want to implement the program in a large scale, in a permanent basis, that they understand the Maharishi effect. So whether it's in one way or the other, this is happening right now. These are the main concern to do this activity was that we don't want to have it in many years. We need to have it now because the requirement is now. In the future, gradually over generations will happen, but we need it now. And that's the reason why we took this shortcut to accomplish these groups, and most of them will be ready all this year. And more than talking much about them, we want to see the changes happening in society and in the world, and then we will refer to them more in detail. So that was, in short, a brief presentation, and we offer this, and we have to give gratitude to Dr. Nether because this assembly in Hyderabad created the basis to materialize many of those activities we were preparing before, but that represented a very big input. And you will see now that very, very soon they'll start to see real changes. And then when we go to our consciousness advisors and to our governors, to our meditators, we can say, can I also create world peace? Can I also participate? Can I also feel that my life is significant for the well-being of all? And that is a big yes, and that is our program. Thank you so much, Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Dr. Alvarez and Dr. Ploud, for this expansive and truly inspiring journey and presentation. It's really opening all our hearts and minds for the biggest vision that Maharishi had for the world. Now, I'd like to invite Dr. Tony Nader to conclude tonight's session with some closing remarks and really bring it all full circle. So over to you, Dr. Nader.
Thank you, dear Anna Marakaji, and thank you, Dr. Kaplan, Dr. Patterson, Dr. Alvarez, and all that's happening in Nepal, Deepak ji, Dr. Kingsley ji, and all those involved in this program, all the leaders that bring to effective action and effective performance the field of consciousness. And we have spanned or scanned from small values or individual concerns of individual aspects like exercising and doing habits and all of that, all the way to global world peace and blessings to the whole world. And again, as Dr. Lila Maria Hartman beautifully highlighted, it's because consciousness is all there is. But consciousness is a field, and that field looks at itself, vibrates within itself, experiences itself in an infinite number of ways, and those ways are what manifests. But they manifest in orderly fashion. They manifest in ways that there is law and order. And the basic law and order is that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, which maintains the fact that whatever comes out and manifests is balanced always, and that field maintains itself in its equanimity and wholeness all the time. And yet those values that manifest, as they manifest in an orderly sequence from fullness to more and more specificity within the absolute, and then from the most specific, as we see in the emergence of our universe, coming from particles and molecules, etc., all the way to planets and evolved entities, human beings, etc. Then all of this happens with reverberation, which is the vibration, the fluctuation of the field. Like the ocean, again, we go back to this analogy or metaphor, the ocean bubbling up and reverberating. And you can start with one big wave and then more waves coming together, mixing together, and then appearing as the entire universe. So those waves are the reverberations of consciousness. And humans, when they are very evolved, because all these reverberations have a dynamic, have a structure, and this structure has been found in the human physiology. So the human physiology is able to be in tune with those waves and experience them, and even transcend, and therefore experience their wholeness as a field of pure silence, of pure being. And that is the yoga aspect that Dr. Kaplan presented to us, the unifying value, where we get unified, where all the laws are settled in that one field. And that really is the source of support and creativity and intelligence. As Dr. Patterson highlighted from Maharishi's quotes about this field being the field of infinite creativity, a reservoir of intelligence, and a reservoir of energy. And so as we express those, and as they express in the universe, we get different degrees of freedom. And those degrees of freedom allows us to be individuals, to be who we are, and act from the perspective that we have as individuals. And there is a reason for that, which is described in this book, Consciousness is All There Is. But to say that the freedom is also a means to choose something that is not in tune with those sequential, orderly reverberations of the manifest universe, which in modern science we call the laws of nature. The laws of nature are those dynamics that are orderly and that flow in an orderly way. And so when there is freedom, there is a choice, and when there is a choice, you can choose to go with the flow or against the flow. And if you go against the flow or create turbulence, you get waves of correction that adjust that turbulence. And those can be what we experience in life as things that we don't like to have, as unfortunate things on the individual and social level. The way to rebalance that, the result of decisions that are not in tune with this flow, in tune with natural law, is to go back to the source, where all of these are in order and orderly, and therefore naturally and spontaneously you start acting according with that infinite balance and perfect sequence and perfect flow of the laws of nature. Another way is what we call yagya, and Dr. Patterson wanted me to comment on how it works, and so that is really in a short way what happens, and that is what we call yagya, of which all our great leaders are the great champions, and we are really proud of Dr. Luis Alvarez, who has been the greatest champion in that field, and that has inspired so many groups and so many societies and so many places around the world to actually create those groups that are performing the yagya. So again, to go back to what yagya does, yagya allows those reverberations, those same orderly reverberations, to be strengthened, so that whenever there is a disturbance or a turbulence, when you have a very powerful and orderly and coherent reverberation, those turbulent parts readjust themselves and align with the original design, with the original proper sequence. But for those to be perfectly effective, they cannot be on the surface level of the activity of the waves. Because the more you are on the surface, the shallower you are, the less you have effectiveness. And so what Maharishi really did is two things in that perspective. One is ensure that those who chant those sounds, which are those reverberations, are established as much as possible in pure consciousness. And so they practice transcending. They practice the program of going deep within and being the master of the ocean of consciousness, the transcendental pure level of pure consciousness. So take that energy and power and creativity in its fullness, because it is still undisturbed in that field, and now create those sounds from that powerful field that is truly beyond space and time, and that can actually transform even things where there are turbulence, where there are waves that are not right, and where there are expressions that are not correct, which is what we call problems and conflicts and crime and difficulties in society, because all these negative things are the results of those actions and transformations that have not been in tune with the proper evolution and manifestation in life. And so here you have two things. You have that complete power of the silent field, and then from there you have the waves being created in an orderly fashion that can re-establish balance and drive away any kind of apparent negativity on the surface. And that is why this program of yagya is so powerful. And it, of course, requires a critical number because that is how it works. How many people are creating these unfortunate ripples and unfortunate turbulence requires a minimum number of people. Luckily, it's the square root of 1% of the population, and that is what is being done through those programs and has been shown repeatedly in a very powerful statistical way, and compared to control times and control periods and control even sometimes other cities, etc., have been shown to create that coherence and effect of balancing and soothing out from that field of chanting, which is a sound value, but a sound projected again from that powerful ocean that then takes the whole field of manifestation in the proper direction. And so it's really very simple, and it has been scientifically proven repeatedly, and we have the understanding of how it works when we know that consciousness truly is all there is, and that all these waves and reverberations are waves and reverberations of different levels of consciousness, different abilities to perceive from different angles, to see things from different perspectives, and to even see things from the negative way, the right way. That is the freedom. But then we have the power of the technology to re-establish proper vision, proper decision making on the individual level and society. So it is really a very beautiful time with a wonderful knowledge and technology that gives us the assurance that the future, as Maharishi said, is bright. And that's how he saw that the future is bright. Because he has seen the knowledge, he has experienced it, he knew it, and he wondered if in this time of rather turbulent kind of phase of life on earth, which is in the Sanskrit terminology called different yugas, so different large periods where things are more or less balanced depending on the quality of the inhabitant of the world and their consciousness. He has seen that the knowledge is there, he knew it, but then when science came along, and actually when those experiments were used, we call them experiments because at the time we couldn't maintain those groups, but every time they came and they were established, they really created the effect that was proclaimed, that was seen, that was expected. And so there is an objective proof, there is an empirical finding, and there is the total knowledge of how it works. And therefore, together, these values will assure us that one day or the other, this knowledge will be used on a global level, and life will be really beautiful and harmonious and perfect on earth, so that no good comes to no one and all good comes to everyone. And luckily, happily, we rejoice that we are living through those times and periods right now, as this is happening and this is being developed. And so we experience and express and feel the greatest depths of gratitude to Maharishi, to Gurudev and the Vedic tradition for this knowledge and practical technologies. And today, as we celebrate in these days Guru Purnima, the teacher, we also celebrate all those who are representing that knowledge and the leadership. We have had a great group of new leaders. We call them Rajas or Rajeshwaris, mothers of the domain, or Ranis. It really doesn't matter the name, but it's important to have a designation. And we rejoice in that, and rejoice that more and more of these leaders will be taking more and more care of different countries and establish in those countries large groups enough for every country, so that we have assurance and security on a global level. So the 10,000, which is critical for the world, can create a dampening, cooling
calming effect, but it seems and it feels that every country would benefit most when they also create their small groups. So we want the largest group. They will be an assurance that the other countries will come up and be, with time and short time, also having their own coherence. But our new leaders and all our already for many years established leaders are every day planning to have capitals of world peace, to have towers of invincibility, and mainly to populate those capitals and those towers with knowledge of understanding how life works and how the technology works. But more than that, the actual people who practice those technologies and practice them regularly, so that there is a maintenance of this highest level of consciousness to make sure that no negativity arises, and that's what Maharishi calls invincibility. So it's been a great, and now in this realm of what we're doing, we're going to continue to explore different specific values in the next few days, and this wonderful and profound and complete knowledge package and packaging of the knowledge that we are calling consciousness advisors. So it's great to be all together in this, and I want to ask Raja Peter, who has been with this new group, and Prime Minister, who have very intimately been with the group of the new leaders, to thank them, honor them, because it seems to me, I was told that officially, in a way, officially, the course, as far as its structure has been going on, is coming to the end today. That's how we perceived it, but the end means the beginning, the beginning of application and the beginning of using the knowledge. So this is just the beginning always, but well begun is half done, and in this case we can say it assuredly and certainly. It has been a wonderful group, and whether you're staying with us for the completion of this phase of knowledge and the consciousness advisor programs, or going home, go and enlighten the world, and let's be all faithful to the purity of the teaching, and that's how we can be most perfect in giving the best to our communities. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Maharajaji, it's been a huge honor and pleasure to be with this group of 26, 27 enlightened individuals for the past few months, starting on 9th of June in the Maharishi Peace Palace in England. The group assembled and followed this program that Maharishi outlined for training the leaders of his organization, the top leaders, the Rajas, mothers of the domain, Rajajeshwaris. And leaders in what sense? Leaders in the field of consciousness, because consciousness is all there is. So this is the course to train familiarity with that field which already governs life, but by becoming familiar with it, to be able to accelerate and increase its power in the field of administration. So the Raja or Rajajeshwari or Mother of the Domain, they don't achieve things through hard work, they achieve things through activity on the level of silence, not by doing their duty, but by enjoying their duty, the waves of silence. And I just wanted to highlight that by reading a few sentences from Maharishi's talk. I read a little bit of this on Guru Purnima Day, but just to remind ourselves who these individuals are and what they've learned in the past 2 months. So this was when Maharishi crowned or installed Rajas on the 30th of October 2007. Maharishi said, today's puja to Gurudev has placed us completely on the lap of Gurudev. And that is the role of these special individuals. A special supreme affection for Gurudev we are experiencing and expressing. And he said, today is the puja where omniscience, omnipresence, almighty characteristic qualities of the ruler of the ever-expanding universe is open to our awareness. It's the unified state of administration. Very interesting to administer the state of being. There is no becoming, there is no path. That is the state of the goal of all paths, self-administered state of unity consciousness. This is that level from where speech returns, leaving the speaker to himself. And the speaker has nothing to speak. Be, being, being. It's the be-all and the end-all of everything, on its own simple, sustained, self-contained, self-breathing unity. And then Maharishi said something very nice. He said, you can imagine the silent laughter in the being, the silent being of our first dear ruler of the world. That's Maharaj, Adhiraj Rajaram. What he's seeing. Today, he's multiplying himself. Today, he is multiplying himself as a formality of multiplying, because in the eternal unity of Purusha, there is no multiplication, or no division, no minus, no plus, no division. There is no variation, but nevertheless, the sense of that fullness. So this is the beautiful course that Maharishi designed. It was very deep, very profound. I can't tell you, it was an indescribable joy to be with this group all the way through. I'd like to give credit, because she's sitting here, Blaise Benson, who is the hostess at the Peace Palace in Rendlesham, and looked after everyone so nicely. But also, of course, all of the staff and everyone there, but mostly attending a course designed by Maharishi, where he selected the talks and he worked out the program in order to raise individuals to that level of administration on the level of silence. And all that under the constant and watchful eye of our dear Prime Minister, Dr. Bevan Morris, there for every session of the course, helping to keep everything on track. It was such a lot of love and unity, wasn't there, in that group? And tomorrow, many of us are going to our different countries, but we take that with us. We don't actually go anywhere. Everything is on the level of silence. And of course, Maharaja, every minute and every aspect of the course, under your watchful eye and your guidance, as you multiply yourself and spread this beautiful quality that you have of administration in silence, of being established on that level of representing the holy tradition of masters, to Gurudev, to Maharishi, who brought us the great wisdom of life. So thank you, Maharaja, for blessing this course and allowing us all to be here. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Yes, this group of 26, so admirable, so impressive in every way, and so unified, and so much full of love for each other, and demonstrating their great maturity already in Maharishi's worldwide movement, with their ability to absorb the most incredibly profound impulses of knowledge, total knowledge that came from Maharishi in the training course to them, and living in a state of great gratitude to Gurudev and to Maharishi and to Maharaja, who supervised and sponsored the existence of the course. And I think we can all understand that They're going out with a great power of Raja consciousness to look after 29 countries in the world that will be so benefited by their attention and by their gifts of total knowledge. They live truly in the principle Maharshi said in the course of Dan, Dan, Dan. Give, give, give. And giving that total knowledge that they have, they will change the world in all the places where their attention falls. So it's been a really great joy to be with everyone. They're just outstanding, a really outstanding group of very enlightened people who've taken up the responsibility to bring a better fortune to the world by being the friend of natural law and bringing that friendship to millions of people on earth. So congratulations to all the new Rajas, mothers of the domain and Rajajeshwaris, and thank you for what you are and what you have done in becoming this exalted status. And thank you, Maharajaji, again for allowing this course to go ahead and sponsoring and designing and guiding everyone. Everyone was very, very grateful for that. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you all, to all our speakers, first and foremost, of course, Dr. Tony Nader, and I think we're almost speechless at this point, reverting back to consciousness. So with this full day of our special assembly, I'd just like to thank everyone again and Dr. Nader for really bringing it back to wholeness on all levels, really, that consciousness is all there is. And a big thanks again to all our speakers, Dr. Kaplan, Dr. Pedersen, Dr. Brooks, Dr. Alvarez, Dr. Plout, Dr. Warburton, and Dr. Morris for taking us on this transformative journey during this session, and everyone joining us really tonight here in person and celebrating a completed course, and those who are with us for the whole assembly. It's a real joy. So this concludes our 5th session of the assembly, and tomorrow awaits us another transformative session, and we'll explore together the application of the knowledge of consciousness to create happy relationships, and then there will be more to come that we'll talk more about tomorrow. So enjoy, and tomorrow we will meet and connect at 2 o'clock Central European summertime, so a little later than our previous 2 days. So until then, just enjoy and see you soon.